Hi, this is David Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. And whether you're watching with our friends over at Torah Anytime or wherever you watch or listen to your podcasts, it's always a pleasure to have you with me. Now, I share a personal thought. I do that from time to time. I've been speaking for many years, and I know that a lot of my references are from things that took place before most of my audience had been born. Yeah. I one time spoke in a senior citizen community in Florida, and they got a much higher percentage of my jokes. So I understand. I make reference to things that a lot of people have no idea what I'm talking about. But listen, what can I do? I'm a creature of decades. Yeah. So that's part of it. But every now and then I'll tell a joke that I know probably no one's going to understand except myself. And I tell it anyway. And sometimes I laugh myself because sometimes I entertain myself. And when I sit down to say something or to do something, I do take that into account. I take into account the fact that maybe this is something that I will personally enjoy. Now, I remember I was at a Shabbaton. I was faculty many, many years ago. And at one point in the program, the theme was Torah, learning Torah. And at one point of the program, they set up everybody in little corners of the room. And kids would go from person to person, and they were told, take 5-6 minutes and say over your favorite shot, a vart, some idea in Torah that has particular meaning to you. And I said, what about? They said, anything. It doesn't make a difference. The most important thing is that it's important to you. I thought that is a fascinating idea. I don't know how effective the program was, but I found the idea fascinating. The person saying over will obviously have a lot more enthusiasm and excitement for what they're talking about. So sometimes people say to me, it must take a lot of time to prepare for this podcast. And I say, no, not really. Before I start recording, I think to myself, what do I want to speak about? Now, the past 6 weeks have been pretty easy because I took one line from each parak of Pirkei Avos. Now, I think you'll agree with me. That's hardly what we would call an exhaustive study of Pirkei Avos, pulling one line out of one Mishnah of each parak. So I thought to myself, well, the minhag is to learn Pirkei Avos all the way till Rosh Hashanah. So maybe I'll do another cycle. Then I thought, well, maybe people don't want to hear it again, but it's not really the same thing because if I pull a different line, it'll be a completely different topic that I'm talking about. So I wasn't sure. So the first thing I do before I speak is I print out the sponsorship. We have a sponsorship this week. When I looked at it, I knew already what I wanted to talk about. And because of that, I decided that, yes, in order to pull out another line from one Mishnah in the first parak of Pirkei Avos, I'm going to dedicate the next 6 shows to once again going through Pirkei Avos. After that, I have a different idea of what I want to do. I don't want to give it away now. Yeah. You ever fall for that joke when you were a kid? I did. All right. How do you keep an idiot in suspense? I'll tell you tomorrow. Anyway, but no, the reason is not because I'm obviously trying to build suspense. It's because I might change my mind. Like I told you, I make the decision on what I'm going to talk about as I'm walking in to do the podcast. So in any event, and by the way, when I say 6, that doesn't include unless the Geula comes, which is what I'm really counting on. But if the Geula doesn't come, I guess we have to do another Tisha B'Av podcast. That's not part of the That's not part of my normal cycle. That's an unfortunate tragedy that comes up that I need to deal with. So if I have to deal with it this year, I will. But that's not going to be part of our Pirkei Avos series. So I want to pull out a Mishnah from right at the beginning. Now, Pirkei Avos, we talk about the Masorah, obviously. And we go from Moshe to Yeshua, Zekanim, Anshei Gdola, and then we go to the Zugos. And we start going through the different pairs until we reach the last of the pairs. And the two pairs, as the Mishnah in Chagiga tells us, one is the Nasi and one is the Av Beis Din. And when we finally reach the final pair, it is, of course, Hillel and Shammai. And we did a quote from Shammai when we did the first parak the first time. It seems only fair that we do a quote from Hillel now. Hillel Omer, heavy mi talmidav shel Aaron, be of the students of Aaron. Oev shalom v'rodev shalom, love peace and pursue peace. Oev es habrios, love people, umekarvin l'Torah, and bring them close to Torah. What's the message here? Well, I'm pretty sure. Again, I'm not positive. I don't go back and listen to all my podcasts. I actually did. On the first year anniversary, I started, running through the different ones to pull out snippets and lines from past episodes to make like a montage of the first season. I got halfway through and I realized that it was too big a task for me because I had to listen to the whole thing, keep writing down what the time was, where it was in the video, and then remember it. And I'm sort of an ideas guy, But anyway, so I don't know if I spoke about this in the past. I don't know if I spoke about this in the past, but I thought it would be good to talk about the topic of Kiruv v'chokim. Now, I have worked in the field of Kiruv v'chokim for many years. I've also worked in regular chinuch, but I've also worked in Habatzos Torah. And at one point, I was teaching the Kiruv component of Rabbanim who are going out into the field. I was the one who was teaching the Kiruv part of the aspect. When I got up, I always said, there are certain things that everybody knows about. And that is parenting, and that is education. Because everybody was a kid, and everybody went to school. So everybody's an expert on these topics. So before anybody says anything, your first question has to be, what are your qualifications? My brother Jason Over Shalom, he eventually was niftar because of problems with his heart. He was hoping for a heart transplant. And they told him first that he had to get his weight down. So he went to meet with a nutritionist. And the first nutritionist came in, and she was relatively thin and fit. And he said, sorry, this is not going to work. Because you can't understand what I'm going through. You don't understand? So he went to get the second one. The second one came in, was also trim and fit. And he says, why do you think you have anything to share with me about my condition in life? She said, because I have a weight problem. I've been battling it my whole life. My entire family have weight problems. And we have all been working together to get control of our weight. He says, okay, let's see what you have to say. My son. Now, when I had 8 daughters and 1 son, my son used to say, Abba, it's not fair when you say one of my daughters, no one knows who you're talking about because there were 8 of them. When you say my son, everyone knows you're talking about me. I said, you're right. Next time I tell a story about you, I won't say my son, I'll say one of my children. And so the next time I spoke, I said one of my children was on his way to Cheder. Giveaway. But now that I have 3 sons, That's one of those jokes where I entertain myself. Anyway, one of my sons just started working out with a trainer. And he says to him, why should I listen to what you have to say? He looked pretty fit and trim. He says, because he showed him a picture of what he looked like beforehand. I forgot if he lost 100 or 150 pounds, something like that. He says, I did it through diet and exercise, and I got my life together, and you can too. So my son was very inspired. He said, okay, let's hear what you have to say. Yeah. So when I would get up to speak about Kiruv, I'd say, okay, anybody can talk about Kiruv. Okay. So what's a person's qualifications? Yeah. When does a person know what to say? I feel like I just told the story. I'm not sure, but I think it was Diana Bromsky who was called in as an expert witness in a case in England. And the judge says to him, well, Rabbi, what are your qualifications? And he said, I'm an expert in the Talmud and all of its commentaries. I'm an expert in the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, and all of its commentaries. I'm an expert in Maimonides' Code of Law and all of its commentaries. Well, the judge was slightly taken aback, and he says, doesn't the Jewish religion say you should be humble? He says, what can I do, Your Honor? I'm under oath. So what are your qualifications before a person goes to offer an expert opinion? Okay, this is not what we're talking about directly, but I feel like I just have to mention this. Yeah, an actor has lines written for him by a writer. And there are some actors who are in films where they're absolutely brilliant, and there are other ones when they're not, because nobody wrote good lines for them. So there's nothing they can do about it. If you write poor lines for me to say, that's it. It's not me. I'm playing a character. I'm going to read what you wrote. And there's a director standing over me saying, no, say it like this, say it like that, stand this way, stand this way. So at the end of the day, the guy stands the way the director tells him to and reads the lines that the writer wrote for him, and everyone says, the man is a genius. Give that man an award. Okay, that doesn't bother me so much. But then he's suddenly an expert in politics. And every dopey actor, suddenly their opinion counts. What do they know about politics? What do they know about morality? What do they know about the world? What do they know about science? What do they know about anything other than standing there and saying what somebody else tells you to say the way that they tell you to say it? And somehow we think actors, celebrities, sometimes you can be a celebrity and not even be an actor. You have absolutely nothing going for you except that you're a celebrity. Yeah. And suddenly your opinion counts on anything? Who cares what you think? Ball players. Is there any indication that a person who plays ball has any more intelligence than anybody else? But he knows how to hit a ball with a stick very far. Or he knows how to throw a football across the field. And suddenly this man is an expert in society, politics, religion, science. Anyway, I'm just going off of that. But my point is that whenever anybody is offering their opinion on something, who are they and what are their qualifications? A person calls himself a rabbi. Or for that matter, a person calls themselves a therapist. Now, I don't know about today, but when I was still in America for many years, you could call yourself a therapist or a psychotherapist, and you didn't need any degree whatsoever. It's a term that doesn't mean anything. So what are your qualifications? Why should I listen to anything that you have to say? My father, I remember when Linus Pauling came out and was extolling the virtues of vitamin C and how vitamin C can cure the common cold and vitamin C can do all kinds of different things. And there were other experts who took issue with him. And my father started taking large amounts of vitamin C. So I said, Dad, the science isn't in on this yet. And he says to me, Linus Pauling won 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different fields. That's good enough for me. What's your qualifications? Where is it coming from? We had a pediatrician. We had 2 pediatricians here in our north. One of them was Dr. Matar. And he has a lot of strong opinions, not just about medicine. He left medicine, got his smicha, and became a Rav. He graduated from Harvard Medical School. And every now and then he would say something, and I would say, who says? And he goes, me and Harvard Medical School. I remember I went down and I said, the kid has strep, I need antibiotics. He says, oh, do you want me to check him or just write the prescription? I said, you can do whichever you want. But my wife said to get a prescription, and I'm not leaving without one. So it's really up to you if you want to check the kid or not. I just want that prescription. He goes, okay, I'll fill out the prescription. Socialized medicine. Anyway, so that being the case, what are your credentials? So I ran the Long Island region of NCSY for 9 years. I took over a region that had 1 member, and I built it up at the end to 1,000, 1,200 kids who were involved in different programs that we had. We had sports leagues, we had publications, we had all kinds of things going on. Yeah, all of our different activities. Before that, I had a chapter in LA. I built it up from 6 kids to 60 kids. Yeah, so I had a little experience. Came to Israel. I taught in the Yerushalayim, I taught in Or Sameach, I taught in Nation Torah, I taught in Discovery. And eventually I began training Rabbanim in the field. So I feel like I have a little bit of background when I speak. Everyone's opinion, like I say, is valuable. Yeah. But at least you're entitled to know when a person speaks on a subject, what are their credentials? Right? When we spoke about COVID, even though it turned out that some of the things I said turned out to be correct, people were very upset at me, and they said, "You're not qualified to speak about COVID." And I said, "You're right. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a research scientist, but based on the information that we're being given, these are my questions. These are my questions." Yeah. Dovid Gottlieb, who is a professor of philosophy as well as being a Rav, he said once that a guy who comes out of a few years of learning Yeshiva Gedola, he definitely is on the level of a master's student, for sure. The amount that he learns and he knows, and his ability to ask incisive questions. Because while most universities today in the soft sciences and humanities tend to indoctrinate students with a particular point of view, in yeshivas, we spend a lot of time trying to get people to think. Who says? How do you know? Where does it say it? Where'd you get it from? Yeah, ask a kasha here, bring a raya there, right? So a lot of critical thinking, which allows people to ask questions about every area of life. They may not be experts in the field, but at least they know what to ask. So, so that being the case, right? I feel like this Mishnah is basically a roadmap to how to do Kiruv. Tiyu Talmidim shel Aaron, as we know, and we read recently in the Torah, when Aaron died, all of Bnei Israel cried because he was an Ohev Shalom and a Rodev Shalom. He made Shalom ben Ish le'ishto ben Adam l'chaveiro. He made peace. He brought people together. Aaron had a particular gift to bring people back and make them feel good. How? So the Ovis of Rabbi Nosson says, he would not seek out only the Aleph students for his cheder and yeshiva katana, where he'd say, we only take the best boys. No, he would go after the not best boys. And they'd say, Aaron, what do you want from me? He's on level with Moshe Rabbeinu. What do you want from me? He says, I want you to be my Talmud because I hold your Roy. And because Aaron believed in them, they became Taka Talmidim Shel Aaron. Oev Shalom, Berodei Shalom, love peace, pursue peace. Oev es habriyos, love people, umekarvim l'Torah, and bring them close to Torah. You know how you bring people close to Torah? You love people. There was a Rebbe. They asked him once what the secret was to be able to reach out to people. And he said, a sincere smile. I said this to somebody once, and he quoted me back Groucho Marx, who said, the most important thing is sincerity. Once you can fake that, the rest is easy. It's not so easy to fake it. People can usually see through you. I was, part of my course is I would answer the basic questions on Judaism. And we, go through, say the different questions, different sections. So I came to a section on women's issues. And I said the following. I said, listen closely. If in your heart of hearts, you are a male chauvinist and think women are inferior, do not answer questions about women's issues. Because even if you say the right thing, they will see right through you. Because people can tell if you mean it or not. Let somebody else answer those questions. So somebody tried one of my answers later on in the course, and he says, this woman asked me the question, I gave her your answer. And she said, you're patronizing me. I said, you know why she said that to you? Because you were patronizing her. So he says, but you say it. I said, I mean it. Don't you get it? I was a bacher invited over to Shabbos tables of married people. And my mother always, her theme song was, it's the maid's day off. And I would get up to clear and I would get up to serve. And the husband would look at me in shock and say, oh no, my wife does that. And I said, I'm sorry, I wasn't brought up that way. I had poor chinuch. I was taught to get up and help. I was one of 6 boys. We didn't have any gender appropriate jobs. And who does mama teach to bake and sew and fix, preparing me to marry whoever papa picks? The daughters. Yeah, we didn't have any daughters. There were 6 boys. Didn't work out well with the rooms. There were only 3 rooms, and we were always fighting. So people had to just pick up their stuff and move to another room and switch around. If you have girls, it's impossible. I remember when my oldest son, there were 8 girls and just him, so he had to get a room to himself. All the other girls, we had to triple them up, quadruple them up. But he got his own room. Yeah. So there's only boys. Evidently, frogs, if there's a group of all males, some of them turn into females so that they can have children. But that's what happened in my house. I became the girl. And I learned how to cook and how to clean and how to shop. And well, listen, I've given recipes out on the podcast on a number of occasions because my mother taught me how to cook. And so, household chores to me were second nature. I had to do it. So I don't know what it is to sit at the table and give a clap and say, "Woman, bring forth the food." Because I was taught that there's nothing demeaning about it. I guess that's why God gave me 8 girls. I have an overwhelming number of grandchildren who are boys, because everything has to even itself out. But evidently, I had more of a skill of being able to give over to my daughter's home economics than I did to give over Torah to my boys. But how do you view somebody? So if you don't really like people, then you should not get involved in Kiruv Rechokim, because people will sense that you don't like them. And if you really like people, then you can be much more effective. I give classes to different people from all walks of life. I strike up conversations with people from all walks of life. Could be sitting next to them on a plane, on a bus. We could be shopping. I find people fascinating, and I basically like people. I'm not crazy about everybody's actions, but I'm basically people. People are a lot of fun. It's I don't know if I ever told this story. I probably did. A guy came to meet with me. He had just finished my the course, the rabbinical training course. He was going out to a community. He came to ask me a question. He said, "Should I divorce my wife now or when I get to the new city?" I said, "Why are you divorcing your wife?" He says, "Oh, she's terrible. She's this, she's that." So I did the first thing that I always do. I said, "Tell me 3 good things about your wife." And he stood there a very long time. And then he said, "Can't think of anything." I said, "You can't think of anything? You live with this woman? She cooks for you, she cleans for you, she does your laundry, she gives you children, and you can't think of 3 good things about her? I can meet somebody on the bus and tell you 3 good things about them. And you want to go into Kiruv Rechokim? Are you crazy? You can't find good in anybody? You have to love people if you want to bring them close to Torah. The most important thing that we have to do is always in our mind. That's the greatest preparation that a person has to do. It's a mindset. My mindset is I like people. Therefore, when I strike up a conversation with somebody, I'm trying to encourage them to have a relationship with me. Not because I want something from them. I want them to become from at my schedule. I used to love this when I used to work in Kiruv, and people would say to me, "How many people have you made from?" "I've made 35 people from." I would say, "Interesting. I never made anybody from." He says, "Really?" I said, "Nobody." I have spoken to people over the years, and at times, something that I said inspired them to make changes in their lives, but I can't make anybody from. Don't you understand? If I make somebody from, I'm a cult leader. I expect you to get from by my standards and my time schedule. I meet somebody, I have no expectations of them whatsoever. And I can have a fine conversation with somebody, whether they're Jewish, whether they're not Jewish, whether they're observant or not observant, whether they're old, young. I've had some fascinating conversations with small children. I've had fascinating conversations with teenagers, with young adults, older adults, elderly people. I find people fascinating. That's the first step. So I had NCSY chapter. My first NCSY chapter was in LA. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had been in yeshiva. I lived a pretty sheltered life. Granted, I was about tshuva, but I got from when I was 12. So I didn't have too many exciting experiences, to share. And it was really a whole new world to me. And it took me a while to figure out what was going on. Yeah. I mean, I'm not stupid. I just uninformed. So at one of the first meetings, I don't make a big deal about smoking, but I can't understand why everybody had to share the same cigarette, passing it around. And of course, my dear friend Joel Petlin, who was the chapter president, and walked me through life. On those rare occasions when I see him, he still does this for me. He lives in Muncie. He's the person who is an expert in constitutional law, who was able to get Curious Joel recognized as an independent municipality, religion and state issues. And but he just really, anyway, he walked me through that, like held my hand like I was a little boy. He walked me through it. He says to me, "That's not tobacco." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, marijuana is drugs. What do I do?" No, So I thought quickly and I said, "Okay, I'm pretty sure this is what I don't do. Hey kids, drugs, bad scene. Just say no." So I had to think fast. And I have found that over the years, sometimes a answer that does not involve getting involved in religion is much more effective than trying to get into a whole ganze pilpul. So I said, listen, guys, we got a lot of great events planned this year. We're going to do some exciting stuff. But if anybody from the synagogue walks in and finds you guys smoking that, we're out of here. So let's make a rule. No drugs or alcohol in the synagogue. And it was like, yeah, okay. I was like, I can't believe that worked. I can't believe that worked. But, I was tested this way many times. This was 1978 at the head of the disco craze. Ha, 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 ha. Staying alive, staying alive. The movie had just come out. And there was a guy in the chapter who looked exactly like John Travolta. Probably better looking. Anyway, he wanted very much to have a disco night. And he came down with his non-Jewish girlfriend to show me their routine. So I said, I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea, but let's wait until we're more established. Because if you make something like this and it doesn't take off, it'll kill the whole thing. You want to make sure before you make a major event like that, we have enough people committed. And they both said, oh, that makes sense. And I said, wow. Eventually, he became from, he went off to yeshiva and became a Rebbe. Anyway, I found myself in a lot of situations where I had to, think really fast to be able to solve problems. I've used this method a number of times. I had a guy who in yeshiva decided to start wearing a hat. And he says, I'm going to go home, and I have this aunt who's anti-religious, and she's going to start making fun of me. She's going to say, why do you wear a hat? So I would say, it looks cool. It's a Stetson. I look like Indiana Jones. I think it's cool. So he said, well, she'll say, I think it looks stupid. So I said, well, Auntie, I don't think everything that you wear is in the finest taste, but I would never say anything because Judaism teaches us to be tolerant of other people and their views. Are all secular people as intolerant as you are? Are they unable to understand that maybe somebody might like something better or different than they do? He was like, I was going to go into a whole speech about Kavod Rosh. I said, no, keep it simple. I had a young lady whose parents never went to synagogue, only her mother on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And they went to a conservative synagogue. Now, through her involvement in NCSY, she started going to an Orthodox synagogue. But came Rosh Hashanah, her mother was so excited because she had a daughter who now would actually go to synagogue with her. And she says, oh, I can't wait for Rosh Hashanah. You'll come with me to our synagogue. So she says, how do I explain to my mother why conservative Judaism is wrong and I'm not allowed to pray in her shul? And I said, for the love of God, don't. Say the following, Mom, I don't like that service. It's too big, it's so crowded, and they have a cantor. I go to a small synagogue where the congregants lead the service. It's so much warmer and nicer. He says, I'll try it. So she calls me up and she says, I told it to my mom, and she says, that sounds great. I'll come with you. Anyway, so you got to know what to do, right? You got to know how to be smart. Yeah. Be smart, not right. Yeah. So I had one guy who was in the chapter who was going to a conservative day school. And when I figured out more or less what I was doing, so I pushed awards. I think awards are great because people will do the most amazing things for a photostated piece of paper with a couple of signatures on it that's presented to them while the band plays some maudlin music. It's absolutely amazing. I said, we're going to be chapter of the year. We're going to this, we're going to that, you know. And Joel said to me, no, we won't. We have 6 kids here. At the last regional convention, we didn't even get our own table. We had to share it with another chapter. We're not going to be, I said, we're going to be chapter of the year. We're going to have the most kids. We're going to have the most amazing. Anyway, we were chapter of the year, by the way. Thank you very much. So regional chapter of the year and national chapter of the year. So, and I would just push them. So I would tell them we have to go to the regional Shabbatonim because we get points for that. Now I brought in a lot of kids who were not with the program. I remember there were these 2 kids, our first opening membership dinner, the caterer was sponsoring it. And there were these 2 guys bending the silverware back and forth until it snapped and dropping it in the water pitcher. And I went around and said hello to everybody. And they said, we hate this synagogue. We hate the rabbi. We hate the Hebrew school. We're only joining this group so we can destroy it within. I said, did you pay your membership? They said, yeah. I said, great to have you along. We had some tough kids. We had some tough kids. Fairfax High. Anyway, so I had this one kid who was, like I say, going to a conservative school, and I had a policy. I'm not doing Kiruv with these kids. I'm going to be their friends. We're going to have a treasure hunt. We're going to have a scavenger hunt. We're going to go to Magic Mountain. We're going to go to Disneyland. We're going to go to Knott's Berry Farm. We're going to go on a ski trip, which wasn't really a ski trip. It turned out to be tobogganing, which actually turned out to be floating down the hill on inflatable tires. But it does make a difference. We had all kinds of cool activities, and I just kept making more and more activities, and it was so exciting. And I never did Kiruv because I didn't want to scare anybody off. I wanted to be their friend. So my goal was to get them to the regional Shabbatonim and let the other people make my kids from, not me. So I was, we'd go to the Shabbatonim, and I would only give the educational classes to other people's kids, never to my own kids. And sometimes my kids would come over to me and go, this is so boring. I want to go outside. I said, yeah, go ahead. Because they told me I can't leave. I said, go ahead. I'll cover for you. Anyway, years later, this guy who I mentioned who went to a conservative school ended up becoming frum and going off to yeshiva. And I happened to be in a car with him one day and some other people. And they asked him, how did you decide to go off to yeshiva? And he points to me. And I said, me? I never told you to go to yeshiva. He goes, I know, you never told us anything. But you were our friend. We could talk to you about anything. We had a great time with you. And we wanted to be like our friend. And we knew that you went to yeshiva, so I wanted to go to yeshiva too. It was such a moment for me. Speeches are not what matters. I've said this during parenting. Kids watch, I should say, kids listen with their eyes, not with their ears. They see who you are and what you are. And if you can always love people, then you can bring them close to Torah. And that's what we have to work on. We have to work on loving people. Now, full disclosure, some people are unlovable. At least to you. There was one kid who was unusually obnoxious. He had a very hard life, I had somebody else work with him, and he became frum and became a big mashpia and marbitz Torah. But I didn't have what it took for this kid. Now, if you have that for most people, like I say, consider a different profession. Maybe run the kitchen at the Shabbaton. But if you can love people, you can bring them close to Torah. Now, what was my inspiration? I read you the dedication for the sponsorship for this show. L'iloi nishmas Raubin Aviegdor ben Chaim Mordechai, who was niftar on the 8th of Sivan, just 2 months shy of his 100th birthday. That to me always hurts. It always hurts. I mean, it hurts anytime somebody dies, but when there's a milestone there. My father died very close to his 50th anniversary. My mother passed away. She was 89. And we were in the hospital, so the doctor said, listen, it was a woman doctor, and she said, look, we did everything that we can. And that's it. We can't do anything more. I think you should look in the hospice, but basically, that's it. You're going to die. My mother says, well, you're a real ray of sunshine. And I said, look, my mother's birthday is in November. She's going to be 90. We're planning a big party. Can you keep her alive till then? And the doctor looked at me and goes, it doesn't work that way. I said, I know, but, maybe you got something you can give her, some kind of experimental drug or something, I didn't want her to miss the party. The doctor thought I was out of my mind, but my father-in-law's first activity every morning was to sit at his desk and write numerous checks to assorted stockers. He was very proud of his son, my husband, for his accomplishments for the Jewish people. Nishmatto, Tzerura, b'tzror החיים. This was sponsored by Rebbetzin Packhouse. Rabbi and Mrs. Packhouse were forces in the Kiruv movement that are legendary. Anyone who is familiar with the Kiruv field know. You might be familiar with her husband wrote the book How to Stop an Intermarriage. They worked for years tirelessly. And she's dedicating this in honor of her father-in-law because good people come from good places. Yeah. I happen to know the Rebbetzins' parents very well. When I went to yeshiva, they were the directors. I had the chus of eating meals over at their house. And just very special people. And obviously her husband also comes from very special people. So it should be an aliyah for the neshama, and all of us should draw inspiration from people like this for us to do kiruv in our own way. We don't have to join an organization. But the next time you're on a bus, next time you're on a plane, next time you're in a hovercraft, next time you're jogging with somebody, assuming you can talk when you're jogging, I can't. But strike up a conversation. A few nice words. Work to say, wow, this person is a good person. Because if I can see this person is a good person, that I can be makarev them to Torah. Mitzvah Hashem. Okay, that's it for now. Next time, I'm going to do a little snippet from Perek Beis. What about that? I hate to be predictable. And that's it. If you want to find out more about the show, if you want to leave a comment, if you want to download the podcasts, if you want to download the music video, the Rabbi Orlofsky Show theme song, if you want to sponsor an episode. So that's the place to do it. And until next time, I'm David Orlofsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.
It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. The Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Knowledge and wisdom will help you grow. Lots of fun in every episode, and we don't have to rhyme. No, we don't. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show on RabbiOrlofsky.com. Torah anytime, YouTube and more. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Torah and Simcha, ready to go. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. Till next time, till we meet again. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. It's the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.